Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Bruce DelMonico, Assistant Dean for Admissions here at the Yale School of Management. Thank you for joining us for today's online student panel. Sorry for the slightly late start, but we're a little after noon here in New Haven, and we will go till about 12:45, so about 45 minutes of the panel. We appreciate your taking the time to be with us here today. The format today is very open-ended. The idea is for you to hear directly from the students about their experience here, why they're here at Yale, what they hope to do, what they've been doing while they've been here at Yale. There's no set presentation, no set remarks. It's really just an open Q&A. And hopefully you'll be able to learn as much as possible about our community and about the student experience as you can. I'd like to kick things off, by having the students introduce themselves. David, if you want to start.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is David Arteaga Caicedo. I'm originally from New York City. I'm currently a first-year MBA. And prior to SOM, I worked in sales and trading at Cargill, and currently I'm recruiting for management consulting.
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Castor. I'm originally from the Dominican Republic, but came via Houston, Texas. I'm a second-year MBA. I was previously in the supply chain industry, particularly in oil and gas. I will go into management consulting upon graduation. And at school, I'm part of the consortium and heavily involved with the admissions team as well.
Hi everybody, my name is Courtney Miller. I'm from Santa Cruz, California. I'm also a second year like Melissa here at SOM. I was in media and entertainment before coming to SOM. I worked in business development at Lucasfilm and digital marketing at Disney. I'm planning to go into tech after graduation. I interned at a startup this past summer. And here at SOM, I am involved in the Media and Entertainment Club, surprise, surprise, Women in Management, we call WIM, and also heavily involved in admissions.
All right, my name is Joe Ramos Walker. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. Prior to SOM, I spent 5 years as a high school math teacher and then the next 5 on the management team of a school district in Indianapolis. And I am a first-year MBA student. I am recruiting for management consulting like David. Today's a big day for us in that regard. But at SOM, I'm involved in consulting club, design and innovation. I play hockey once a week. Then also love to participate in all the other events going on around campus and in other schools as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Tran. I was born and raised in Vietnam for 15 years. In the past 10 years, I was living in Florida and Wisconsin. Prior to SOM, I was working in private equity, real estate, and growth equity. Post SOM, I would like to go back into private equity, but hopefully transition into buyout private equity. At SOM, I'm involved with private equity and venture capital club, data analytics clubs, admissions, and a bunch of other fun, exciting events.
Great. Well, thank you all for participating, especially Dave and Joe in consulting. It sounds like there's a lot going on, so thanks for taking the time to do this. I know we have a good bit of time, but we want to get through as much as possible. So for the most part, if we get responses to questions from a couple of you, that'd be great. But for the first one, maybe if you could each just share why you chose SOM, so what drew you to Yale for your business school experience, and maybe we'll go the other way. Maybe if you want to start, and we can work our way back.
Yes. So there are a lot of reasons why, but I would say the biggest reason for me is the big integration between SOM and the big Yale network. And the school has even exceeded my expectation because I have a lot of friends outside of SOM from my school of forestry, nursing, etc.
Yeah, I think what most drew me to SOM was the mission, and that was something I saw on paper and was really attracted to and found compelling. But then getting here and coming to Welcome Weekend and then actually being here for several months now, understanding that mission is not something that's just on paper. It's not just something that's communicated hollowly. It's very real to all the students here, and I think it's what drew a lot of us here, and it really shows up every day in the classroom, and then as well far beyond the classroom in terms of how we interact with one another in this community.
Yeah, I second what Joe said, that this is a place that really walks the walk. It doesn't just talk the talk, and I find that that's increasingly hard to do, so I've really felt like I've found a community that I strongly identified with here at SOM, so it kind of checked the personal box that I knew this would be a place that I could thrive. It's very collaborative, very supportive. I knew, coming from media and entertainment, that I was coming from kind of a niche background and wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do after graduation coming in, and I felt like SOM really knows what to do with those students and supports them really well. I was a little worried I might fall through the cracks, but I was pretty confident that SOM wouldn't let that happen, and here I am, so they haven't yet. And then on the professional standpoint, I was really impressed by the greater Yale network that you really plug into, how supportive the CDO is, alums, and then I actually reached out to some recruiters that I knew when I was a prospective student and just gave them like kind of an avalanche of business school names and said, do any of these stand out to you in particular? And they all actually said Yale, so then it checked the professional box as well. So that's it for me.
Kind of building on the Yale network, at a given point, I considered if a dual degree was an option for me, particularly in the global affairs. I decided it wasn't, but just the ability to actually take classes all across Yale has been a great plus for me, and it's very seamless and easy. And I'm taking 2 classes at the Jackson Institute, and it's something I really, really enjoyed, being able to complement my business education with other areas of interest. And the second part is really the people coming to Welcome Weekend and even meeting other fellow interviewees when I was in the interview process really solidified that it was an amazing group of people that I wanted to spend 2 years alongside, learning and even just building just friendship and community. So it has really exceeded my expectations on both ends.
Yeah, I completely echo what everyone else has already said. I think in addition to the community, the biggest thing for me was the mission. I mean, coming from the financial services, I didn't have a lot of opportunity to work on social impact. So it's something I was very much looking forward to in my business school experience. And Yale not only has it in its mission, but it really walks the walk. I mean, there's so many opportunities to get involved with the community. You have social impact consulting, you have nonprofit board fellows, you have a GSE, and there's just many opportunities to do it. And I feel that coming here, I've really seen that come true. So it just really, and I think that really just makes Yale stand out from the other business schools, that really integral part of impacting society.
That's great. Thank you for all those responses. And for everyone who's participating, feel free. We have some questions coming in. We had some that came in beforehand. Feel free to continue to send them. Love to start with the questions that are coming in. That's expanding on, David, you talked a little bit about some of the resources for impact and questions about how do student clubs and coursework prepare students for industry pivots. A lot of students come to the 2-year MBA to make that pivot, and you've got a sense from the panel that that's the case for a number of you. Just a couple thoughts about ways in which the school, especially clubs and coursework, can prepare you for that, but maybe beyond that, alumni networks and other things.
I can start. So I came from an operational background, as I mentioned, in the oil and gas industry, and I was pivoted into consulting. So the consulting club is very robust here on campus, and I think very well respected amongst recruiters of the top consulting firms. It is it's actually free of charge for all students, which is not the case in all business schools, but it really dives deep into the whole process of preparing you for the consulting recruitment. And for me, it was very pivotal in making sure I was prepared for my interviews and also helped me with networking. So yes, it's definitely one of the biggest assets I think this school has in that regard.
Yeah, as the former educator, I can speak a bit about curriculum and how impressed I've been at how comprehensive everything is. And it's extraordinarily rigorous. It's really, really challenging in the fall. But the foundations are laid for success from the outset. So a lot of technical work to lay the foundations. And then once you get into fall 2, you're getting really, really deep into complex subject matter. And the core curriculum covers essentially everything you need to know. It's almost like an MBA is consolidated into just the core. And then you're free to decide what you want to focus a lot more on, but you won't be missing any pieces in the business toolkit after you complete the core. And so I've found courses really challenging, but also very, very interesting and totally comprehensive in giving you an understanding of all of the perspectives you need to know and appreciate to be a leader, a business leader.
That's great. And I'd love to expand. There's another question that's kind of touches on this, but maybe a little more expansive, not just focused on student clubs and coursework to help prepare you for the pivot, but just more generally, what resources have you found most helpful during your time here at SOM, just more broadly?
I can take that. So we all kind of touched a little bit on the Alumni Network, and I would say it's pretty mighty. So you have the SOM Network, which is actually, SOM, if you just do the math, is a little bit of a younger business school in the national spectrum, but I think where that really shines is a lot of our alums are at this kind of sweet spot in their career where they're pretty senior, but they're not so senior that you really should not reach out to them. Like you don't want to reach out to the president of Chase or something like that, right? So they're at this really nice spot where they're really happy to talk and pay it forward, which has been great. And then there's also the larger Yale network. So I'm sure we'll talk about global experiences a little bit later. I went to China with a course this past March, and while I was there, I found this Yale Law School alum who started Warner Brothers China. She was one of the first American executives to work in China. She has no connection to SOM whatsoever. A professor helped me track her down on like WhatsApp. It was kind of a caper, but we met up in Beijing. We got coffee. It was awesome. And she doesn't know me. She didn't know the professor either. She was just happy to chat. So there's a pretty mighty network in force here that's really helpful in pivoting and just informational interviews, and then when you actually get into recruiting, kind of lifting you up and helping you there.
That's great.
I think one thing I would like to add to that is the resources from the CDO, the Career Development Office, and also the professional clubs. For the CDO, I did a couple mock interviews, and I found those to be very, very helpful to prepare me for both the behavior and the technical interviews. And I think all of the professional clubs, so that could be like finance clubs, PEVC, consulting club, tech club, etc. The curriculum for all of the clubs are very helpful throughout the whole recruiting process.
That's great. Thanks, Mimi.
One small piece I would add to that is just classmates.
Yeah.
So no matter what industry you want to go to, there's a student at SOM that came from that industry and has potentially deep experience, deep connections, and you can rely on them to support you. And oftentimes they're here to pivot out, but they can give you all the insights on what it was like to be in that industry and who to talk to.
Yeah, that's great. And Joe, you had invoked sort of the classroom experience in the previous answer, and there actually is a question about how you would describe the classroom environment at Yale. And I don't know if anyone else has additional thoughts about sort of what that classroom experience is like.
I think there's a lot of respect in the classroom when it comes to even just disagreeing points of view, and those are welcomed. And I think it goes both like from the professors, but also to your students. Sometimes like there's even the joke that we're too nice with each other, but no, it's a safe space for you to share different points of view, and I think that's something that I've definitely enjoyed of just learning from a diverse background and just a willingness of people to speak up.
Yeah, and I can add to that. I think it's very intentional the way these cohorts are constructed. So for those of you who don't know, we have an entire class of close to 400 students, like 370, and we're split up into cohorts of 60 to 70, and then we take our classes, all of our core classes with a cohort. So it's really helpful in that regard because you're pretty much building these relationships with your fellow students and learning all the same content, so you're able to leverage one another and those who are on your team to really like learn everything. And in addition to that, Yale SOM is pretty good at offering different resources for those who need it. So there's tutors available, there's office hours for free, and all of the professors are completely accessible and will totally meet with you if you need to. So I think from the entire spectrum, if you're somebody who needs a lot of help, it's there for you.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you, David. And Melissa, to your point, it was interesting. We had an event in New York last night, and Professor Sonnenfeld presented. He talked about his sort of previous, he's taught other schools. He talked about the classroom environment at some schools is very sharp elbows and very sort of confrontational, and others it's so deferential that nothing really gets discussed. And he said the SOM's a nice combination of the two, that people really dig into the issues, but they do it in a way that actually is conducive to discussion and not sort of destructive of it. So I think that's just to reinforce that point.
Each cohort has a classroom dynamics representative, so it's very intentional. You have somebody there, they're your peer, they're a cohort mate. So it's just like everyone is very thoughtful about it and wants it to just be a really rich learning environment. That's what everybody's first priority is.
Yeah. And so building on the academic environment theme, there's a question that came in about our core curriculum, which not everyone who's participating might know about, but it's integrated curriculum. It's a little bit different than what you experience elsewhere. And there's a question specifically about the integrated courses and raw cases. And I don't know if a couple of you could give your thoughts on those aspects of the academic experience.
So I can start. I find the course load to be manageable. At the same time, the content is also quite rigorous, and I learned a lot. So coming from finance and business background, I was actually shocked to see the amount of new learning experience I have from the investor and sourcing and managing funds classes. I really like the fact that the professors are very approachable, and there's a lot of classroom discussion. And I think that's how I learned the most, rather than a simple lecture format.
I think the raw case, is not every class is necessarily taught with a raw case. So just something to note. I think in particular it's used on the executive perspective, which really kind of is a capstone course that combines all different perspectives from the investor, from the customer, from the employer, and it does give you some insight on how data is normally presented on our day-to-day lives as business professionals, and you're able to kind of gather insights from different sources. But yeah, I think it definitely can enrich the learning experience, but there's it's a good application where it fits, and I think the professors are very mindful of that, of using the right tools for the right academic goal that they're trying to reach.
Great, thank you. So I guess this is academically oriented as well, but asking about the global study program, I think, Courtney, you predicted that would come up, and you were right. Just how does that complement the students' overall experience at Yale, and maybe a little bit more details about sharing. And for the second years, first years haven't experienced that yet, but for the second years, what your experiences were like and how they added to your overall Yale experience.
Sure. You want me to start? Since I doubled down on it.
You get first dibs.
Great. So for those that don't know, we have a global studies requirement. You have to fulfill it to graduate. There are several ways to do it, so there's not just one path. The most common are something called an international experience, so that's what I did. So you take a class for a quarter, it's focused on a particular country or countries, and then over spring break you go travel to that country. A professor leads it. It's usually about 30 peers, 30 classmates. Another way to do it is a Global Network Week, so I'm sure everybody knows Yale is a founding member of the Global Network for Advanced Management. How many schools are in it now?
30.
30. So 30 schools all around the globe. You, over spring break or fall break in October, can go to one of the schools. It's a mini study abroad. There's a course that you take with other students from Global Network schools. So that is a really interesting and diverse classroom experience. You can study abroad. That's a quarter or semester long. That isn't as common an option just because business school is so short. That's a lot of time to spend away, but it is an option. You're supported. There are ways to do it. It's especially great if you want to work in another country. It's a great option. And then there's a small network online course, unfortunately called a SNOC, which is kind of similar to the GNW, except you stay here. So it's kind of like a Skype experience, and GSE, which is a global social entrepreneurship. So that's kind of a consulting project, and then you go over a break for about 10 days in country to work with I think the most recent programs have been in Kenya and India, and they're sometimes Brazil as well.
Last year, yeah.
And so one thing I'm first year, so I haven't done the go global experience, but something that's been very evident to me is how global this school is, just with the students and faculty here in the building. So with other programs in the building like MAM and other master's programs, we have students from around the world here in this building every single day. So you don't even have to do the global studies requirement to get a global perspective on what's happening. And thinking about what David is saying, the way cohorts are constructed, we have very global cohorts. It's almost 50-50.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I did international experience China. We went to Shanghai, Hangzhou, and Beijing. It's a mix. It's like 50% cultural visits. So we went to the Great Wall. We went to some amazing temples. We went to Westlake in Hangzhou. And then we did company visits. So we went to Alibaba. We went to C-Trip. We went to JD.com. So it was super interesting. It's a great bonding experience and just such a unique opportunity to go kind of be a representative of Yale, but also learn. I mean, you've spent at this point a quarter in the classroom kind of focusing in on all of these different topics. The theme for the China trip is the Chinese economy, which is quite broad. But super interesting, so interesting. And it frames a lot of conversations that you have previously and conversations going forward. So I really enjoyed it.
That's great.
Yeah. So real quick, I went to Japan for my international experience. It focused a lot on the sustainability aspect of their economy. And with myself background in supply chain, it was really interesting to visit a lot of different manufacturing plants. We visited Nissan, Yamaha, among others. So it was really eye-opening and just experience the culture. The professors that went along with us on our trip were Japanese. So it was just an added bonus to get their perspective on their country.
Great, thank you. Love to expand even further. There's a question, a number of you have mentioned the mission as sort of reason for being attracted to Yale. And there's a question about how the and society piece of SOM's mission affects the culture, the classroom experience, class and club offerings, and the student experience. So basically everything. So any thoughts about how that aspect of the mission influences sort of the culture of the community here at SOM?
I'll give just a quick example, and we can kind of go along. So last year, one of my friends, like they started, there's a lot of support from the administration and, to create those spaces for students to continue the discourse of the and society piece outside of perhaps a classroom. And, there's a limited time that you have between teaching material and at times that you have of discussing certain subjects. But yeah, they created clubs called And Society, and they meet every week and discuss different topics that are relevant to our society. So some of these topics have included the Me Too movement, the PTSD, a situation with Kashmir, gun control, and it's been really enriching to come together in this safe space and just really have students with diverse ideas, or even just, and it's not sometimes like trying to find a solution to a problem, but like more often than not, we just need a space to kind of like bring our thoughts to bear and like try to share with one another what we're thinking or what we're struggling with in a particular area. So that has been like really encouraging for me to experience.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think, the main point is that we have the conversations and there is the opportunity to have this dialogue. And it's inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. So even in the first quarter of your MBA, you take a class called Power and Politics. And the entire project was centered around how can Yale and New Haven, or what role can Yale play in perhaps, like bettering the relationship between the overall community. And you have these conversations just transcend the classroom, and I think it's just very enriching to have people who are trying to not shy away from all these important topics. And just, we even have a strong community inclusion presence here at SOM. It's a part of student government, and you'll see many weeks of events of just, whether it be allyship or talks about intersectionality. So there's a lot of discussion happening here.
Yeah, I think it really shows up in the classroom to me, in that you could talk about a case, it's all about profitability. But at the end of it, it's like, but so what? How does this all intersect with the actual society that's being affected? I think of a Nike case that we did. It was all about, what is the role of a corporation in improving working conditions in a country that they're sourcing from when you don't have any formal power, but you have tons of economic power. And so questions like that, these are really important to business and don't always get thought about. It's not all bottom line conversation. It's bottom line and so what, now what? It seems like in all the conversations.
That's great. Thank you for all those answers. I'll have to shift gears a little bit. Obviously, coming to business school, it's a professional degree. The goal is to then be employed afterwards, so that's the expectation. So question about recruiting, not necessarily for careers in spaces like consulting and finance, which are very structured, but question specifically about what the recruiting process is like for people pursuing startups, social impact, and other things. We have a few panelists here who are taking those paths. So any thoughts about what that process is like?
Yeah, I'll go. So
Everyone's looking at you.
I didn't realize it. So I interned at a startup over the summer. I'll be super, super frank and say that it was a personal connection that led me to that. But I think that's actually pretty representative of what you have to do if you're going to like super, super niche. You will be supported through the CDO has got your back when it comes to resume review, to cover letter writing, to interview prep, all of that stuff. But if you're looking to do something about farming in Kenya and how data analytics can apply, that is so niche that you are going to have to do a lot of legwork on your own, and just be realistic about it. That's totally fine. Hit up your network. Joe said there are a lot of students here that have expertise. Hit them up. Everybody's always asking somebody else for a coffee chat. That's very typical. But I left in May, so at the end of my first year, without an internship, which like is very scary, but it all worked out. So I try and hold myself up as like, don't worry, you too will be fine. But it requires patience and knowing what's right for you and not just panicking and landing something, because you absolutely can do that, right? If you want something, you will get something, but it's about knowing what's right for you and kind of holding out for that, which can be kind of scary as the consulting people get their offers really early, but there's a lot of support here for you, so you will be totally fine.
While a recruiter for consulting, I do have a very close friends that are going the entrepreneurial route, or trying to gauge a little bit of if this is a right move for them. And there's definitely a lot of resources in the school for that path. Like there's the City Center that provides support for new entrepreneurs. Like you assign a mentor, and you have different support from Yale to try to help you, like validate your business plan and just kind of move forward your idea. We have professors who are heavily involved in the entrepreneurial world and also provide either classes or practicums for these students to continue pursuing their goals with their startups. And there's several startups that have come out of the school and they're still thriving. So I think there is a great community for that, and I can witness from my close friends that are going through it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. That's great. And according to your point, it's interesting. I think SOM students tend to be very patient and don't just rush to take they all have options and opportunities, but don't always rush to take the first thing to wait for the right thing. The example I always think about is a year or two ago, there was a student who was graduating and took a few months to get a private equity job because they wanted a job in private equity in New England in timber. Right, so that's very specific, but was willing to wait and take the time and got that job, but it took a little bit longer. And so I think some students do have that patience, which I think is important. And I know we sort of glossed over the finance and consulting, the more structured, which isn't to imply it's any easier. It's just different, and there's a lot of effort that goes into it in terms of casing and preparing for the super interview weeks. It sounds like today is a big day. I don't even know what the day is. What's happening on campus?
Applications due today.
Okay,
Drop day, yeah.
so nothing you'd rather be doing than being on this panel right here, right now.
I've got mine in.
Okay, so you guys are good.
I'm here to relax.
Okay, that's good. You can take it easy now. Love to. Lots of different questions on all sorts of areas. I was just going to throw out one that I thought was interesting. What is something you wish you knew before you're beginning your journey at Yale?
I'll say going back to school can be hard. Like I worked in industry for 6 years before coming to business school. So I think oftentimes we have this image of the MBA that we see from our friends from social media or whatever, and like we look at the fun part, and there is a lot of fun, but there's also work. So I think it took me a little bit of an adjustment of it's the academic course is rigorous, and you have to adapt to it. And there's a lot of decisions in life life decisions and community that you have to figure out in a short amount of time. So I think that took me a little bit by surprise when I came, and it took some adjustment in the first month. But yeah, so that's something to encourage that, once you're back to school, there's actually homework to do. Yeah.
So I can add to that. I think one of the best experience for me at SOM is the connection with the second year. They are super helpful in terms of recruiting, academic, and other aspects of business school. One thing, if I could go back, that I would do differently is probably to reach out to the second years earlier than what I already did. That would just make the transition better and help me better prepared for the whole business school experience.
Great. And if we can build on that, another question that's kind of similar, but what has been the most surprising or unexpected experience for you so far at Yale, other than maybe the classwork? But it sounds like more about experience, a surprising or unexpected experience at Yale SOM.
People are so nice, which is awesome, but even better than my expectation.
That's great.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise to me is people, and going back to that mission orientation, how real that is and how much people live that. Then also to Mimi's point about just kindness and community, it's almost like family at school. And part of that's because you spend so much time at this building that it almost feels like you're home. But it's also just like you very quickly get to know people really, really well and really deeply, and they're incredibly fascinating, interesting, and kind people everywhere.
I completely agree with both of that. And the only additional thing I would say is just how much you're able to learn in a short period of time. So this is my first time encountering a quarter semester type situation, and just, 7 weeks goes by so quickly, and we're already in our second quarter of the fall, and I'm just always amazed just by how much I've now learned. Like, I'll read the news or read The Economist, and I'm like, oh wow, this makes more sense to me. So it's just amazing how much you're able to absorb.
I guess and then sort of again building on those answers. Thank you for all that. That's fantastic. A little bit about more generally and you touched on this. What types of personalities or qualities do you think are important for students to fit in well in Yale's culture? We talked about that, being nice and sort of the openness to discussion and to different points of view. Are there other things that people would point to as sort of hallmarks of the Yale SOM community?
I think being open is pretty key, and that can be anything, right? You're open to helping a fellow student. You're open to playing hockey for the first time. Like, it's just a place where I think a unifying principle is you come to try things that scare you and to push yourself. And I think that if you're looking to play it safe, stay in your box, stay in your lane, you might not find a lot of people who are similarly minded here.
And I think there's like a humility aspect, and like even it plays out even like called competition, and like really like you have highly competitive fields like consulting or banking, but you see people really celebrating one another even when someone might not have gotten the offer or the opportunity that they wanted. So there's been like a genuine like just like something could be very ominous. It has been a very like genuine feeling of celebrating one another and even helping each other, like even when you are like seemingly competing for the same role.
That's great. I had a very specific question about what life is like for partners or families in New Haven. I don't know if anyone here would fit within that category, and if so, any thoughts on that?
I can comment on a teammate's experience here with his family. So a member of my learning team moved from Alaska with 3 children and his wife, and place has been absolutely wonderful for him. Part of that is that everyone in the community knows and understands that he has an entire family that he moved here with, and so we all adapt, our team schedule to be convenient with him. But we've been to his home and met his kids, and it's very welcoming and inclusive, I think. That's a very unique circumstance. Not only a wife, but 3 kids that he moved across the entire United States, and he's loved it here and felt very supported.
Yeah, the Partners Club is very strong on campus. You can audit classes as a partner. So I've taken classes with partners and not realized they weren't in the MBA program. There's a lot of support, and especially people with kids, that's not uncommon. So there's a good community support here, and then just partners in general. They're always around. They're always welcome. They're on all of our lists. All the emails we get, they get. So it's very inclusive. Yeah.
I guess so broadening even further, question about what the lifestyle is like in New Haven. Any thoughts on that?
I think like New Haven, like it has the perception because it's a small town, perhaps like not as like fun. It's like you can find everything that you want to do. I think you can find it here in New Haven. Let's be real, like while you're in school, There's a lot, But one of the things I particularly enjoy the most is like access to museums. Yale has great museums. Also, one of my favorite Saturday night activities, we have what's called the Yale Cabaret, which is like part of the drama school, and they put a lot of this kind of avant-garde, like just really interesting and cool plays in a very intimate space. It's been one of my favorite things of Yale that I get to do and experience here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my experience at New Haven has been really good. I think I prefer a lot more than the bigger cities like New York or Boston or Philly, etc. And simply because when I decided to go back to business school, I want that college town environment. I don't want to get lost in the big city. And the fact that SOM has a big integration with a bigger Yale University network just expanded my network and all of the activities outside of business school.
Yeah, I thought of it as potentially a disadvantage to move to New Haven. It's tiny compared to even Indianapolis, which is not a huge city. But I realized what it does is it creates a tighter knit community. There aren't people who are, in a big city, people would be sort of leaking out of the environment or community and not as engaged. Because it's a smaller city, I think people are all in on the school and on the university. So it creates a lot more opportunities for connect and even, within Yale, Cabaret, the museums, it creates a sort of tight-knit bond that wouldn't be possible in a larger place.
Yeah. And the food is excellent, not just the pizza. I'm so superior about the pizza. There's excellent Indian food here, incredible Thai. That actually really caught me off guard. It's so good.
Yeah, no, it's lots to eat. It's true. And we have maybe a couple minutes left, maybe one or two more questions. One of them actually has to do with students from what would be considered, I guess, non-traditional backgrounds. Do students from non-business backgrounds feel that they have support to be successful in the classroom and job search? So I think we have some examples here, but I just want any more thoughts about that.
I feel targeted again.
No, actually, Joe got called out in the question. So, but I didn't want to identify you specifically.
Yeah, I've been incredibly impressed. I think the classes are harder relatively if you don't have that background, but it definitely does start and fall on with foundations, probability statistics, basic accounting, basic economics. Really lays the foundation. I think it's harder if you don't have that background to perform well, but there's all sorts of support, right? So not only your classmates, but tutors and TAs available to supplement, your in-class experience with small group or private tutoring and things like that. On the career front, Consulting Club is absolutely amazing. It's a very structured and rigorous process, and the club is equally that way to prepare you. And it is entirely designed to take someone who has no idea what consulting even is. You sort of start with what is this and what does your life look like to get you ready for your well-prepared, well-rounded candidate that can approach interviews with confidence. Yeah. And not only from the Consulting Club, but everything you learn in fall 1 and 2 really lays the foundation for all the business knowledge and vocabulary and things like that you'll need. And so fellow students, the clubs, and then CDO as well, I think I haven't found anything challenging. And I would say non-traditional is sort of normal here. Yeah. I don't feel different really than anyone else who came from different backgrounds. So.
Yeah, they don't make you wear like a hat or something. Right. This does not come from consulting.
Yet.
Yeah, and I would say in the classroom itself. So I went to math camp, which if you don't know what it is a mandatory. If you're invited to math camp, you have to go to math camp. But so I hadn't taken a math class since high school, and I was really nervous that the quant classes are really front loaded in the fall. I was very nervous about how I would do. So you go to math camp before school starts. You have the tutors, you have TAs, have regular office hours. There's so much support for you. I'm fine. They didn't kick me out. I did well enough in all the classes, so it's fine if you don't come from a super robust business background.
We're math camp buddies.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I think it's right, because I always sort of laugh a little bit when I hear questions about non-traditional backgrounds. Because I feel, to Joe's point, there's so many students from so many different backgrounds here at SOM, and there's nothing. We don't think in terms of traditional and non-traditional. One of my things I always think about too was Sharon Oster, who for years taught microeconomics, the microeconomics core course, and was dean for a number of years. I remember being in a session where she was asked whether econ majors were the ones who did the best in her microeconomics class, and she said no, it wasn't. It was always the liberal arts majors who just got really turned on by the material and just really enjoyed it, and those were the people who always did the best, but even if they had no exposure to economics before. Yeah. So I think everybody has room to do well here. We're at time. Just one last question, I guess, since this is an admissions panel. If you all, some of you have been closer to the process the first year is a little closer to the process than the second years, but just for any thoughts about pieces of advice you wish you had when you were applying to business school for those out there who are thinking about the process right now.
I would say for me, just kind of related to what Mimi had mentioned before, talk to current students. I think that was very helpful, important for me during the process. And for those of you who think you're, from a non-traditional background, I'm sure if you reach out, you'll find somebody who comes from a similar background to where you're coming from, and just being able to share that experience and help you think through things that you may not have thought of otherwise.
I'll say the Yale admissions process is a very holistic process. You're more than just one aspect of your application. So I think sometimes we can get hung up in certain elements of it. So just really dig deep into your whole person and your whole personal and both professional experience. All of those are valuable when you're going through the admissions process. Don't get hung up on your GMAT scores or GPAs or whatever. Just really think about it as a holistic approach, because it truly is.
And I would just comment, think about what fits for you. Mm-hmm. Think about what you want to do and what we've said. We're representing our experience here, and I think for a lot of people it's amazing and it's perfect. For some people it might not be the right fit, but just be really intentional about assessing your fit with any school you're applying to or thinking about. I think this is the perfect place for me and a lot of people. But just be really intentional about understanding from the lens of current students what it is actually like to go to school there, what kind of people you're going to be spending 2 years with, and really get to know the community.
Yeah, and I would say very related to that, be yourself. My mom, or your mom, and I have the same advice for you. Be yourself. The reason is it's easy to panic and just kind of say what you think a business school wants to hear from you, but being yourself and having that really shine through what you value, what your experience is, that's the only way you're going to wind up at a business school that values you for you and your experience, and you're going to be so much happier when you're in the right place. So that would be my advice.
I would say all of these advices are definitely great, and I don't know if I can add much to it. So just want to say that you should always have your faith, keep your hope up, and don't give up. Because I remember I applied I applied first round, and then I got waitlisted with no interview, and then I got the interview with the rest of the round 2 candidates. So obviously, I hope everybody will get accepted. But, if you are in one of those special situations like I got waitlisted, definitely don't give up. Definitely don't lose hope, because there's always a good chance there for everybody.
Great. Well, I think that's perfect to end on that hopeful note. Yeah. And I want to thank all the panelists for taking time out of your day to be here today to share about your SOM experience. Thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully this session was helpful. Hopefully you have a better sense of the school and our community now than you did before this panel. We look forward to continuing to David and Joe's and everyone's point about connecting with students. We look forward to staying in touch with you as you continue on your MBA journey. Look forward to being in touch and answering more questions. In the meantime, thank you again for participating, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Thanks.